Welcome to Teaching Truth by royal appointment. That's the theme for our reflections this week as we journey with Joseph through the narrative of Genesis 41. Joseph had a royal appointment with the king, with the ruler, Pharaoh. Let's read of that royal appointment from Genesis 41 as we think in our reflections today about Pharaoh. Genesis 41 verse 15. Pharaoh said to Joseph, "I had a dream and no one can interpret it. But I have heard it said of you that when you hear a dream, you can interpret it." "I cannot do it," Joseph replied to Pharaoh, "but God will give Pharaoh the answer he desires." Then Pharaoh said to Joseph, "In my dream I was standing on the bank of the Nile when out of the river there came up 7 cows, fat and sleek, and they grazed among the reeds. After them 7 other cows came up, scrawny and very ugly and lean. I had never seen such ugly cows in all the land of Egypt. The lean, ugly cows ate up the 7 fat cows that came up first, but even after they ate them, no one could tell that they had done so. They looked just as ugly as before. Then I woke up. In my dreams I also saw 7 ears of corn, full and good, growing on a single stalk. After them 7 other ears sprouted, withered and thin, and scorched by the east wind. The thin ears of corn swallowed up the 7 good ears. I told this to the magicians, but none of them could explain it to me." Then Joseph said to Pharaoh, "The dreams of Pharaoh are one and the same. God has revealed to Pharaoh what he is about to do. The 7 good cows are 7 years, and the 7 good ears of corn are 7 years. It is one and the same dream. The 7 lean, ugly cows that came up afterwards are 7 years, and so are the 7 worthless ears of corn scorched by the east wind. They are 7 years of famine. It is just as I said to Pharaoh. God has shown Pharaoh what he is about to do. 7 years of great abundance are coming throughout the land of Egypt, but 7 years of famine will follow them. Then all the abundance in Egypt will be forgotten, and the famine will ravage the land. The abundance in the land will not be remembered, because the famine that follows it will be so severe." The reason the dream was given to Pharaoh in 2 forms is that the matter has been firmly decided by God, and God will do it soon. And now let Pharaoh look for a discerning and wise man and put him in charge of the land of Egypt. Let Pharaoh appoint commissioners over the land to take 1/5 of the harvest of Egypt during the 7 years of abundance. They should collect all the food of these good years that are coming and store up the grain under the authority of Pharaoh, to be kept in the cities for food. This food should be held in reserve for the country to be used during the 7 years of famine that will come upon Egypt, so that the country may not be ruined by the famine. The plan seemed good to Pharaoh and to all his officials. So Pharaoh asked them, "Can we find anyone like this man, one in whom is the Spirit of God?" Then Pharaoh said to Joseph, "Since God has made all this known to you, there is no one so discerning and wise as you. You shall be in charge of my palace, and all my people are to submit to your orders. Only with respect to the throne will I be greater than you. By royal appointment, Joseph is brought before Pharaoh. And because the Spirit of God lives within Joseph, Joseph is able to interpret the dreams which Pharaoh had. And as we think of Joseph's engagement with Pharaoh today, we want to think first of all about Joseph's profession. Joseph stands before Pharaoh and listens as the king explains his dilemma. And Joseph gives the interpretation of that dream. But even before he does, note this, he points Pharaoh to the Lord. Even after all he's been through, 2 years behind bars, Joseph is not bitter, but he's seeking ways to bring glory and honor to the Lord. He uses this opportunity to magnify the Lord. Joseph's verbal profession. And are we able to testify to the goodness and the grace and the mercy and the faithfulness of God, even if we've been in situations which are like prisons sometimes? Are we able, even after that, to testify that God has been faithful and merciful and good? That's what Joseph did through his profession as he engaged with Pharaoh. And Joseph's plan, because Joseph knows that the Lord is working in these moments. He does what no other slave, what no other prisoner would have dared to do. He not only tells Pharaoh about what is about to happen in Egypt, but actually he tells Pharaoh what to do about it. And his plan is threefold. He recommends, first of all, to find a wise man to oversee the project. And then he recommends gathering 20% of all the food produced during the 7 years of plenty and to store that up. And that was part of his third recommendation, to use that to feed the population during the 7 years of famine. You see, Joseph's plan is an amazing and very pragmatic plan. It's a simple plan. It's an effective plan. Not only will the people be able to eat during the famine, but Egypt will have corn to spare. But note this. The plan was not contrived or made up by Joseph. The plan was put into the heart of Joseph by God. Joseph was in effect just the messenger. God used a slave, God used a prisoner to set a policy for a kingdom. Let me finish by saying this. It is amazing, I think, just to watch and to observe who the Lord will use and who the Lord does use to accomplish his purposes in this world. He uses some of the most unlikely candidates imaginable. God used a very humble, insignificant, and very ordinary Sunday school teacher 50 years ago to touch and to impact my life. A man who had physical disabilities and to this day is in a nursing home in Carluke. God used the most unlikely candidate to touch my life and to touch the life of 2 other people who today are serving the Lord. God chose a Moses. God chose a David. God chose a Gideon. God chose a Saul of Tarsus. People who had messed up, ordinary people, but God used these people to serve him in ways beyond they could even ever imagine. God uses the weak and used the weak to shame the wise. God used Joseph. He brought him from the prison to the palace by royal appointment to serve Pharaoh. Join me tomorrow in Teaching Truth as we continue to journey with Joseph through Genesis 41.